There is a word in ancient Greek that means simultaneously palm tree, reddish purple, Phoenician, and possibly griffin. Scholars have spent centuries trying to decide which meaning came first. The word is phoinix, and somehow, from this tangle of meanings, we get one of the most enduring creatures in all of mythology. A bird that dies, burns, and claws its way back into existence, carrying the ashes of itself. But here's what almost no one tells you: the original phoenix didn't burn at all. When Herodotus traveled to the Egyptian city of Heliopolis in the 5th century BCE and asked the priests about their most sacred bird, what they described was not a creature of flame. It was something stranger, a gold and red bird roughly the size of an eagle that appeared once every 500 years, always when its father died. It would hollow out an egg of pure myrrh, pack the corpse of its parent inside, seal the egg to its original weight, not an ounce more, not an ounce less, and carry it on an impossible flight from Arabia to the Temple of the Sun. Herodotus wrote it down. He also admitted plainly that he didn't believe a word of it. Fire arrived later. The flames were an editorial decision made gradually by Roman writers who found the funeral egg story too strange and not quite magnificent enough. Ovid gave the phoenix its aromatic nest of cassia bark, spikenard, cinnamon, and myrrh, the bird reclining into the spices as if into a bed, breathing its last among dreamful odors. From that nest, a new phoenix emerged. What Herodotus had called a filial act of mourning, Ovid transformed into spectacle, but long before Herodotus, a poet had already placed the phoenix into the conversation more quietly. In a fragment of Hesiod's Precepts of Chiron, the wise centaur speaking to a young Achilles, Chiron lists creatures by their lifespans, stacking them like rungs on a ladder toward the divine. A crow outlasts 9 human generations. A stag outlasts 4 crows. A raven outlasts 3 stags. A phoenix outlasts 9 ravens. Only the nymphs, daughters of Zeus, live longer. Hesiod's phoenix, then, is not a symbol of resurrection at all. It is simply ancient beyond reckoning, a creature whose lifespan compresses entire civilizations into a single lifetime. There was also the matter of the real bird underneath the myth. Egypt's sacred Bennu, the solar bird of Heliopolis, the manifestation of Ra's soul, was not an eagle-like creature. Paleontologists have found the fossils of Ardea bennuid, a species of enormous heron in what is now the United Arab Emirates. This bird, now extinct, stood roughly 1.5 meters tall, uncommon enough and luminous enough beside water to be legendary. When early Egyptians encountered it near the flooding Nile, resting on elevated stone, and dawn light struck the electrum-plated cap of a temple obelisk, at that precise moment, the sudden burst of reflected light would have looked briefly like the bird itself catching fire. You see how a myth is born? Here is something stranger still. In 47 CE, under the Emperor Claudius, a phoenix was paraded through Rome during celebrations of the city's 800th anniversary. The crowds marveled, and then Pliny the Elder, writing it all down in his natural history, calmly noted that there could be no doubt the creature on display was a fake. Rome needed the phoenix as a symbol of imperial renewal badly enough to stage one. The myth had become political theater. The man who gave the phoenix its most complete literary form was a 4th century writer named Lactantius, who composed a 170-line poem called De Ave Finis, possibly written before his conversion to Christianity, which means the same man who would become one of the church's most influential apologists first wrote about the phoenix as a pagan. His phoenix lives in an Eden-like grove at the edge of the world, where no storm has ever broken a branch. After 1,000 years of this impossible serenity, the bird feels the weight of its own age and flies willingly into the world of death. From its body, a worm emerges. The worm grows feathers. The phoenix is reborn. Clement of Rome had already seized on this in the 1st century CE as an emblem of the resurrection itself. The bird crossed every border it encountered, Egyptian to Greek, Greek to Roman, pagan to Christian. The word phoinix traces back to Mycenaean Linear B tablet written during the Greek Bronze Age, around 1600 to 1100 BCE. At that point, it probably meant palm tree, the date palm, which rises from arid nothing with improbable sweetness. The Egyptians noticed that their word for the Bennu, BNW, also carried meanings tied to the date tree's fruit. Multiple civilizations independently kept braiding the same images together: the sun, the palm, the bird, the color red, and the idea that something can pass entirely through death and come back holding the same shape. The phoenix never settled into a fixed form. Ancient sources disagreed on its lifespan: 500 years, 540, or 1,461 years, based on an Egyptian astronomical cycle. They disagreed disagreed on its color, red and gold, or peacock brilliant, or purple as Tyrian dye. Lactantius said its eyes were blue like sapphires. Its only fixed feature across every source was that it was singular. There was always only one. What endures then is not a story. It's a shape, the shape of something irreplaceable and mortal, choosing its own ending and arriving from the ash, from the myrrh egg, from the worm curled in sweet-smelling decay, into a world that has always needed to believe that what burns completely can still return.